Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping right into a really interesting comparison. India versus Pakistan's military strength for 2025.
That's right, we've got a report here with a detailed statistical breakdown.
Exactly. So thinking about their history, their spending, what are the truly critical capability differences in 2025? That's the big question.
Well, the report starts broad with global rankings. India sits at 4th globally, power index of 0.1184.
Okay, pretty high.
And Pakistan is 12th with a power index of 0.2513. Now, lower index numbers are actually better here, indicating greater strength.
Right, so 4th versus 12th. That initial ranking alone suggests a pretty significant overall difference in national power. Let's drill down manpower first. The numbers here are, frankly, huge for India.
Yeah, they are. Active personnel. India's got about 1.45 million.
Compared to Pakistan's 654,000.
And then reserves India at 1.15 million. Pakistan around 550,000.
Plus, that available pool of people is vastly different too. 622 million for India versus 95 million for Pakistan. Makes sense. Okay, army power on the ground. Tanks.
India leads there too, over 4,700 reported, versus Pakistan's 2,400 plus.
That's nearly double.
And armored vehicles show a similar trend. India's count is over 10,000.
Pakistan's around 3,400. Big difference. What about artillery, rocket systems?
Same story. India has significantly more artillery pieces, over 4,000 to Pakistan's roughly 1,900. And rocket projectors, over 1,300 compared to around 400.
So across the board on land hardware, India seems to have a quantitative edge. This suggests what? Greater firepower. All right, let's shift to the air. Total aircraft numbers.
India again has the larger fleet overall, around 2,210 aircraft compared to Pakistan's 1,435.
And fighter jets specifically, that's often key.
Yes. India reports over 690 fighters, including advanced types like the Su-30 MKI and the newer Rafales.
And Pakistan?
Around 430 plus fighters, with the F-16 and the JF-17 Thunder being prominent. So still a capable force, but smaller numerically.
What about under the surface? Submarines?
India has a larger submarine fleet too, 17 reported versus Pakistan's 9, and more principal surface combatants like frigates, 13 to 10.
So India's Navy seems geared for broader reach, maybe blue water operations.
It definitely has more capacity for that, yes.
Now, the nuclear dimension, the report lists very similar warhead estimates, right? Around 160 for India, 165 for Pakistan.
That's correct. Near parity in estimated numbers, which leads to that classic mutual deterrence situation.
But there's a difference in delivery systems, specifically missile range.
Yes. India's Agni-V missile is highlighted, with a range reportedly over 5,000 kilometers.
Compared to Pakistan's longest-range Shaheen III at about 2,750 kilometers. What's the strategic meaning of that difference alongside the warhead parity?
Well, the parity maintains the deterrence, but India's longer missile range gives it greater strategic reach, potentially more targeting flexibility, covering a wider area.
Interesting nuance there. Okay, finally, let's talk budgets. Money. India's defense budget is much, much larger in absolute terms.
Hugely larger. Around 86 billion US dollars compared to Pakistan's approximately 10 billion.
But the report notes Pakistan spends a higher percentage of its GDP on defense.
It does. About 2.7% for Pakistan versus 2.3% for India, according to these figures.
So summing up the numbers, India generally has a clear quantitative advantage, manpower, land, air, sea, budget.
That's what the statistics suggest, yes.
But, and this is crucial, the report itself concludes with a broader point. It says something like, military might builds deterrence, strategy wins wars. True power lies in peace, progress, and dialogue. Right. The hardware count isn't the whole story. Strategy, leadership, alliances, economic stability, all these other factors are critical.
Absolutely critical. The numbers provide a snapshot of potential, but not guaranteed outcomes.
So we've looked at the 2025 figures, the disparities, but kept in mind that broader perspective from the report itself.
Indeed.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. Given these military comparisons for 2025 and remembering that emphasis on peace and dialogue, what single factor do you think is the most vital for maintaining stability in this really complex India-Pakistan relationship? Something to think about.